Howdy, everybody. Guess what? It's 7:05 on a Friday night. Um, so we got a lot of things going on these days. One, yeah, I'm taking a little time out. I have a regular broadcast now with KRTD Media. Yes, I do. Every Wednesday night, I come on for an hour and talk about national issues. Sometimes I throw in a spattering of local issues, largely because I'm still in tune with what's going on in Idaho. But like this last week, we talked about marijuana. We talked about COVID. We talked about national responses to all of these things. And then, of course, we've gotten into a little Ask Me Anything session and all the fun things that go with that. The week before, we talked about Middle East policy, foreign wars, military adventurism, things that go on in the United States, issues like that. So, KRTD Media, go ahead, take a look them up. Kerberos Roundtable Discussions. Yes, they actually started out as sort of roundtable, get together three or four people. Well, three people, because that's what it was. Kerberos, the three-headed dog, right? Cerberus, Greek mythology. That was the big thing. So Kerberos Roundtable. How you doing, Nick? Yep, America. We got lots of America. And I actually owe Kerberos. Jimmy Sunderland has been, and thanks, Nick, has been extremely helpful in setting up with some of my branding, that I'm using not only there, but here as well. This cute little logo down in the corner with my little Joe Evans and a little steaming cup of coffee. Thanks to Jimmy Sunderland and the folks over at KRTD Media. Some of the other things I got coming up. January 27th. Go ahead and mark it down, folks. January 27th. Appreciate it, Nick. Appreciate it. Absolutely. January 27th, I will be live. This is going to be a late night one with the Naturalist Capitalist and O'Donnell for New Hampshire. And this is going to be a revisit from a year ago when we did the No Caucus for Old Men. Yes. How you doing, David? Appreciate you stepping in. Love it. Love it. Now, one of the other things I got going on, Kind Idaho, marijuana activism in the state of Idaho. You guys know I'm involved with that, and I do an awful lot of work associated with that. Currently, we're looking at doing some restructuring because this is Idaho, folks. The one and gone, is one of those things we thought we were in place for it. But as we get closer and closer to the deadline here, we realize that this is more of a long haul fight. We need to be able to stick in and stick through the process, not just through the end, but beyond the end. Reason why is because we still have a significant number of people in the state of Idaho, in positions of power that want to continue to see marijuana illegal in the state. So Kind Idaho is going through a reformation, or rebranding, getting ready to stand back up, or restand in such a way that we can continue to support marijuana policy, informed medical marijuana policy in the state of Idaho, and the ability to create safe access for a number of reasons. So we're going through that process right now. We've got some really amazing, incredible people working on that, and I really do need to give a shout out to them. Absolutely, Nick. Medical marijuana. That as a veteran myself, the number of my friends I find that use it. Yeah, I don't want to say need it, because most of them don't actually need it. But it facilitates their healing. It facilitates what's going on, right? And that's the big thing, Nick. Absolutely. You're forced to take the psych meds because if you smoke, you lose your job. You piss positive on a UA. Okay, you can be high as a kite on so many other psychoactives, ones that actually do make you psychotic. But the one that calms you down and actually makes you functional is the one they actually deny you access to. Yeah. Oh, God. That's the other one. The federal laws around concealed and carry weapons permits. You know, big problem everywhere. Yeah, everywhere in the United States because it is a class one drug, right? Why is it a class one? You know, you can get meth, it's a class two. You can get cocaine, it's a class two. Heroin, class, you know, all of these class two. You know, you can use them, you can abuse them. You still won't lose access to certain functions like concealed carry weapon as long as you know, even if you test positive. You know, but marijuana, boom, you gone. One and done, as hot on a UA. All of a sudden, you're losing your federal licensing. You're losing your concealed carry weapon. You're losing your access to self-defense. You're losing access to your Second Amendment rights just because you test positive. Right? Oh God, this one's a huge one. Okay. Here, Nick. Right. If you have a medical card, you can't buy guns. Okay. Seriously, folks, people can be high on, they can get drunk, they can be high on cocaine, they can be high on meth, they can be high on heroin, they can still legally buy a gun. They go and get a medical card, all of a sudden, their legislators want a red flag law to go in, search your house just because you have a medical card, and take all your firearms. You know, this that is not a it's unsustainable. It is absolutely unsustainable. Unsustainable. Um, and it is total garbage. Absolutely, Nick. Um, and there are other things, you know, federal licensing. See, it's see, federal aviation administration, the FAA. You know, licensing through them. You know, you test positive for a UA. You know, again, be high on heroin, be high on meth, be high on cocaine. They'll let you keep your license. Test positive for using a little THC ointment. Gone, done. You know, got federal licensing, gone. Certification, gone. You know, it's a problem that an awful lot of nurses and doctors have with being able to maintain their licensing. Even if they suggest, even if they recommend, especially if they personally use, because they understand the benefits of marijuana. If they ever get tested positive, American Medical Association can strip them of their license. You know, yeah, it can be a little rough sometimes. It can be a little rough. That said, this year we're looking at it. We're looking at it. People are disenfranchised with the Republicans. People are disenfranchised with the Democrats. Yeah, here we are, less than a year in, and we already got a lame duck presidency. You know, they own the Senate, they own the House, they own the executive branch, and they still aren't getting anything done. People are disenfranchised with the Democratic Party. Okay, we're looking at what the fallout from what happened with Trump and the Republican Party. Republican Party all across the United States is split. You have the Trump faction, you have the anti-Trump faction. You know, the Republican Party is disenfranchised. And depending on which faction wins in each state's respective primaries, you can honestly expect an awful lot of the other factions to go over. Right? Absolutely, Julie. Any excuse for the cops to go in and rummage through your house. You know, red flag laws, all of them, all types. Um, Yeah, Nick, believe it or not, I'm actually trying to censor this. It's a tough thing for me too. I love using that language. All my time in the military, 4 tours. That's my language. Trying to re-language around that so that my Facebook family and friends. Nah, you're good. You're good, Nick. You're good. You good. Uh, but again, it's one of those things. I've actually, you know, as a spokesperson for Kind Idaho, that was one of the things that was brought up to me. Is we are in a very conservative state, and my rough language, yes, it's rough, and I really need to stop falling back on the excuse that it's who I am, because truth is it's not. I know the words that people need to hear. Yeah. Yeah. It offends. Yeah. You know, I grew up LDS. I grew up Mormon. A lot of you out there are very out. Oh, sorry about that. And did I lose something? It's hard to say. Sometimes things cut in, sometimes things cut out. You always sort of have to wonder with this stuff. Um, you know, but as you're paying attention to what's going on with community, I grew up LDS, I grew up Mormon. That is the dominant religion here in state of Idaho. Even within Boise, eastern Idaho, northern Idaho, you tend to see more of the Christian Protestant varieties up in the north, as opposed to down south, where through the Boise area, Treasure Valley, you see more of a blend of Catholic and LDS that actually represents a significant amount of political power in the state of Idaho. It's funny. I actually saw a comic the other day. It was Noah, and there was the penguin, and there was the elephant, and Noah was labeled Utah, and the penguin was labeled a state, and the elephant was labeled a religion, and there was that little hybrid creature there that said churchaslature. Yeah, well, Idaho is every bit as bad. We have a significant amount of religious influence in our legislature, which does not belong. And in all honesty, I believe that most Idahoans, even the religiously devout, understand that the state is not responsible for their morality. They are. You know, if you are good because the state tells you to be good, you aren't being good for the reasons that will get you into heaven. I mean, there's an awful lot of people out there that are going to say, no, 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 dude. Good acts have to be of your own volition in order to be worthy. It's the truth, folks. Good acts need to be of their own volition in order to be worthy of the kingdom of heaven. If you're doing it because you're scared of the law enforcement, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and you're not going where you're expecting to be going. You cannot coerce people into being good. They have to want to go there on their own. So, churchaslature, come on, folks. We know better. God knows when you're being good out of fear versus when you're being good because you believe in doing the good works. Grew up with that, man. I grew up with that. Um, Absolutely, Nick. Evil comes from the heart. You know, um, any situation, just about any situation, always comes back to that. Evil comes from the heart. Um, but the thing is, right now, it's funny because one of the biggest complaints about the legalization of marijuana in the state of Idaho is about the state's responsibility to the temperance of its citizens. And that is creating good policy that preserves the goodness, the temperance of our citizens, not, by creating situations and policies where people want to be sober, but by straight up making it illegal to be anything but sober. And the Idaho State Constitution actually has a line in it that the state of Idaho, the governance of the state of Idaho is responsible for the temperance of its citizens. Yeah, in and of itself, that's pretty loaded. But ironically, the only place in Idaho code where temperance is again repeated is when Idaho legislators wrote the laws that gave the state control over the sale of liquor and liquor licenses. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of good things about being sober. There really are. But in this day and age, right now, I can completely understand why an awful lot of people are taking a little extra time, doing a little something extra just to be able to coping mechanisms. Right, Julia? Temperance. By whose opinion? Whose temperance? Ironically, the state of Idaho actually became a state. Our constitution during the territorial forming, when the Idaho Constitution was written, it was during that time when the temperance movement, right there during that era of prohibition, was coming into full swing. And the I can't even remember the name of the coalition. There was a Christian coalition of women, that actually lobbied during the Idaho's Constitutional Assembly to come in and say and insert the Republican Party's platform on temperance into our Constitution. It was actually rather ironic when you take a look at it, considering that the minutes, you go back and actually read the minutes of that constitutional convention for the state of Idaho. The number of times that one or another assemblyman that was present for the constitutional convention laughed and chuckled at the women who came in to advise for, and it's like, this is the Republican Party platform. Go ahead and put it in. Yeah, turn around and disregard it because it was a national prohibition at the time, 1920, the speakeasies. We were out west, we had the saloons, we had all that fun stuff, but our Constitution still had in it that the government was responsible for the temperance of the people, which is ironic because, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and dig it up here. The Idaho State Constitution. We actually got published two places in the State House. One is through the Secretary of State site, and the other is through the Legislature of Idaho's site. So here's the thing. Article 1 is the Declaration of Rights. Section 1, the inalienable rights of man. All men are by nature free and equal and have certain inalienable rights, among which are enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, pursuing happiness, and securing safety. Yeah, now that's Article 1, Section 1. So that's the primacy, man. That is the first obligation of the government of the United States to ensure that those inalienable rights of man are maintained and sustained. Then you get down to Section 4, guarantee of religious liberty, blah, 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 habeas corpus, right to bail, trial by, all of those other things. We get Section 9, freedom of speech. That's a good one. Section 10, The right of assembly, Section 11, right to keep and bear arms. So in a lot of ways, we have the Bill of Rights that are once again built into our state constitution, for all the good that does. I think it's been changed 150 times since it was first written. But if we actually go in and take a look at where temperance comes in. Okay, it's not in the distribution of powers. Section 24, under the legislature, okay, promotion of temperance and morality. The first concern of all government is the virtue and sobriety of the people and the purity of the home. The legislature should further all wise and well-directed efforts for the promotion of temperance and morality. Guys, come on, think that through, man. Think that through. That is just loaded. NASCAR. So how much of that came out of someone avoiding prosecution, claiming I was just drunk, Your Honor? Well, at the time of Prohibition, you were talking about books, classics like The Great Gatsby, a number of others in which there were significant amounts of time where she was drunk, but she said yes. That sort of line of thinking. Yeah. I mean, that was the lead in the temperance movement. And it was ironic. If you actually go back and take a look at the history, some of the pictures from around the temperance movement, there were an awful lot of and this is during suffragette period time too. So you had a lot of women activists, a lot of women lobbyists. They were petitioning for the right to vote. They were petitioning for temperance. It was the temperance movement, and that was what led to the prohibition. And it was one of those things where we created morality by defining the immoral acts as illegal, despite the fact that the state had a first and foremost responsibility to the pursuit of happiness. Okay, the individual rights to your own body, autonomy, personal ownership, my body, my choice. Yeah, that's essentially Article 1, Section 1, the Idaho State Constitution, my body, my choice. Yet they go in and they cloud it, thinking that some reason Section 3, Article 24 supersedes Section 1, Article 1, the inalienable rights. Yeah, guys, if you're a constitutionalist in the state of Idaho and you say you're a constitutionalist and you don't actually know what's in the Idaho State Constitution, I can't take you serious. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate the vote of confidence. Really appreciate it. So if we keep talking about these issues of temperance versus individual rights, sovereignty, personal choice, my body, my choice, those things that are the inalienable rights of every Idaho citizen, according to Article 1, Section 1, inalienable rights. And the thing is Idaho has been, since the beginning, one of the few states that has an unbroken record for allowing women to vote. And I think the only reason why I wasn't the first was because we were awarded statehood after Wyoming was. I may be wrong about that. There are a few details in there that I'm a little bit fuzzy about, especially when you're looking at the fact that most of it is the inalienable rights of man. I do not know whether or not the original writers of the Idaho Constitution intended that used to be gender neutral. Okay, or not, but it's one of those things. women have been involved in Idaho politics since the get-go. The first Idaho legislature actually had women sitting in it. Yes, David, they have inalienable rights. I know it's not something that's always been recognized within Idaho or within U.S. case law, but women are human beings. Women's rights are human rights. No, technically, man is not gender neutral. We see an awful lot of that show up. And you're right, Julia. Never was neutral. It was about Nick. You're gonna get me into trouble here. You're gonna get me into a lot of trouble. Uh, no, but you're right, Julia. It's like leaving out the woman in the inalienable rights of man. They could have said mankind, the inalienable rights of humanity, the inalienable rights of the human being, inalienable rights of the sovereign citizen or the citizen. There were so many other ways they could have relanguaged it in such a way that there was a gender neutral term that made sure that women were specifically included. There was gender neutral use in some of the original laws. Oh, you have no idea, Cherokee. Idaho was part of the Pacific Northwest Territories, and the Pacific Northwest Territories was originally set up as a whites only territory in the United States. The territorial laws actually had specific rules that would not allow blacks to set up and establish residence in the United States until after the Emancipation Proclamation had been proclaimed. And even then, we still had significant number of, variants of Jim Crow laws that existed in the Pacific Northwest, particularly in Utah and Washington. And it's one of the reasons why we keep running into the same problem with hate and bigotry out of the Hayden Lake area where we had the Nazi compound in the 80s and 90s. This continues to be, right? Why didn't it say women? Yeah, well, men wrote it. That's what happens when men write things. But yeah, this goes back to they are an integral part of society's functionality. From the beginning, we had women sitting in state legislature. We had women making decisions of state. We had women empowered to set the standards for the way that business was conducted in the state of Idaho. There was direct input by some incredibly powerful, incredibly strong women. What? Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Idaho's first legislature. That's not what I wanted. Idaho legislature. If we actually go back to the very beginning, we got a historical here list of Idaho state legislatures. Clear back to our first session in 1890. Let's see, do we got members for that? Nope, they're going to make it tough to look up. These are some of these things that you really want to be paying attention to what's going on. Nice. But again, you go down to the city, you go down to the state capitol and you wander around. They do a pretty good job of making sure that there are photos, the photo collages from each of the legislative sessions, and you will see women in, clear back to the beginning. We were never afraid to have women in the legislature. Even today, despite some of our misgivings about some of them in certain situations, this was the first This is a 4-year block now. We're coming up on the end of a 4-year block for our first female lieutenant governor. Okay. First ever in the state of Idaho. Now, we've always had women in the state legislature, but this is the first time that we have ever had a female lieutenant governor sitting in the executive branch. No, that's not wrong. Okay. State superintendents of schools. Yes, state superintendent of education. We've had women sitting in that role, and that's part of our executive branch. So we have had women sitting in that seat for a while. Sherry Ibarra is our current one, and she's actually proving to have learned a significant amount, despite the problems that she has with her very own party in the state legislature regarding education in the state of Idaho. I'm looking forward to seeing what the challenges come and whether or not she's capable of surviving the primary, considering what's being leveraged against her moving into this next legislative session. So what else we got? But yeah, Janice McGeehan is our first ever female lieutenant governor. And she's running for the opportunity of being the first ever female governor. This is not the first time a woman has run for that seat. But yeah, so we've had women in power here in the state of Idaho since the get-go. Not afraid of it, folks. Not in the least. What else we got going on? I've been chatting here for about 30 minutes. So like I said, we got KRTD Media Group. Go to their website. I have my regular Wednesday evening show. I'm going to be setting up another show like this. I actually got 2 more. I love this one. They said women were too emotional to make political decisions. The film Mr. Smith Goes to Washington's male senators' emotional plea had the most effect. Yeah. No, Julie, yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things I don't understand. If you've ever watched a man lose at a video game, you understand they're probably not the most stable. Matter of fact, we actually had a road rage incident in Florida not that long ago. Former senator, former chief of staff, and this was his second time, no less. His second time. Right, Nick? We lose. Yeah, anyway. But down in Florida, we actually had a road rage incident where a former senator, former chief of staff, got out of his car, got out of his BMW, and proceeded to start shooting at somebody in a car, in a Prius, no less. He started shooting at a Prius that he had rammed in an intersection. It's the second time he did it. He won't do it again, though. No, he won't. The guy in the Prius down in Florida was actually armed, returned fire, killing said senator. Yeah, Nick. Yeah. It's freaking hilarious. Just because he drives a Prius, don't assume he's not armed, folks. Right? And it's actually interesting because we get into that discussion here in the state of Idaho. I don't care what anybody says. Right now in the state of Idaho, more Democrats per capita carry concealed or even open carry than Republicans in the state of Idaho. National Party may be talking about gun control this and gun control that and gun control the other. But in the state of Idaho, you are more likely to be in possession of a firearm if you vote Democrat than if you vote Republican. Right? Don't judge. Don't judge. Fun times. But apparently it's the same thing in Florida. Just because he drives a Prius doesn't mean he's not carrying. Oh, God. So, Kind Idaho, again, pay attention to what's going on with that. We are doing the reformation, we are rebuilding, we are rebranding, and we will be getting our 501c4 status. Yes, we will be filing for 501c4 so we can actually put a lobbyist in the state capitol. And we're looking forward to that. Don't make assumptions. Y'all know what assumptions do. Assumptions make an ass out of you and me when you assume. Yes, ass out of you and umptions. When you assume, do not assume. So Kind Idaho, we're working on getting our 501c4 status. Yes, Nick, I am running for office. I am registered with the Federal Elections Commission as a Libertarian candidate for Congressional District 1 in the state of Idaho. Yes, indeedy, I am. It's going to be fun, folks. It's going to be fun. So this will actually be my second run for this seat. This will be my second time going up against Russ Fulcher, who is the incumbent, the Republican incumbent. And still waiting to find out who the Democratic challenger is going to be. It was one of those things. I got an opportunity to meet and interact an awful lot with Rudy Soto 2 years ago when him and I were both challenging Russ for that particular seat. And Rudy is now sitting in one of the seats. He was appointed by President Biden to be the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, appointee here in the state of Idaho. So congratulations, Rudy Soto. I'm assuming that by having accepted that appointment, you will not be running for Congress. So at least I won't have to say I'm running against a friend I know now. But yeah, so Rudy Soto has taken on that assignment, and still waiting to see who it is decides to pick up the Democrat reins to turn it into a three-way race at this point. Right, David? It's one of the things I'm looking at. Here I am, a libertarian. This is my third run. We need more beards in Congress. We need more of these beards in Congress. Yes. No, but yeah, David, this actually looks like it's going to be a real good time for libertarians. The 2021 elections in Pennsylvania, they had more than 100 registered libertarians that picked up elected seats in Pennsylvania. 100. Right now there's certain states that are looking at it and going, we can't field 100 registered libertarians. Where'd you find 100 that would actually run? Right? You're in Pennsylvania. You saw it happen, didn't you, Nick? And it is a shit show. It was a shit show. That's why libertarians got elected, is because it was such a shit show. And that's what we're looking at all across the United States. The government of the United States has collectively lost its mind. And whether you're Republican, whether you're a Democrat, collectively, the government of the United States has lost its mind. David Norman, absolutely. Callie, I've had my disagreements with Jennifer McCardle. She's running for LNC chair right now. But as far as an actionist for the Libertarian Party down in California, she has done extremely well. So you guys got good party development that's going on down in California. We got some good people working on things up here in Idaho, positive people. And we're seeing growth. We're seeing more people become part of the libertarian movement. And actually, libertarian, they're actually reading the platform. They're understanding what it is that libertarianism is about. We can go on and on about the people who have come in and said, I'm libertarian. Matt Shea saying he's a libertarian. Dude, no, you're not. You're a religious demagogue. Your morality legislation that you want to push, that's not what libertarianism is about. It's not what being a libertarian is about. Yep, it's about freedom, Nick. It's about freedom. My body, my choice, and as long as I don't hurt anybody else, I can hurt myself all I like. Right? You can't tell me what my pursuit of happiness is supposed to look like. Because you don't know me. You don't know how I grew up. You don't know what I know. You legislating my behavior because I may or may not do something you don't like is not what libertarianism is. And we're really starting to get aware of that as we continue to go on. Non-aggression principle. We don't be aggressive. We don't be abusive. We don't go after people. We negotiate. We consent. We ask for consent. We come to a mutually sustainable agreement. You're offering me this for what I'm offering you. Are the terms acceptable? Yes, no. The terms are acceptable. We move forward with business. If the terms are not, we go our separate ways. Consent culture. It's a big part of what being a libertarian is. It's about the consent culture. It's about asking. It's about coming to consensus, coming to an agreement, finding common ground, and being able to cooperate for a common purpose or a common set of goals or a commonly agreed upon exchange of goods and or services. Anytime, anywhere, between two people without the state getting involved. Second, you tell me I can't smoke my medicine. Not that I smoke medicine, but second, you tell me I can't smoke my medicine. You're no longer acting within the libertarian principles. Second, you tell me I have to do something. You're not acting within libertarian principles. Incentivize me. Make me want to do it without coercion. Incentivize me. Yeah, absolutely. Whole country needs a crash course in consent and the right to rescind consent. We do, literally. And it's one of those things I really hate to bring up simply because of the amount of military sexual trauma, rape trauma, similar things like that, that goes on. But that was one of the things that really brought me into libertarianism more than anything else. Was this concept of consent culture. Seek consent. Get consent. And understand that consent can be rescinded at any time. That is the very basis of libertarian culture, consent culture. It is about seeking a common ground, enthusiastic consent. These are things I want to do. These are things I want to do with you. Or no, I don't want to do that with you. Please move on and do your business elsewhere. Find someone else. Somebody else may want to do that with you. I don't. Not under those terms. But consent culture, especially when it comes to the standards of American culture, when it comes to consent, when it comes to expectations, the fact that coercion is such a significant part of our employment, of our education, of our relationships. The fact of how difficult it is to get out of an abusive relationship because we do not have community support that allows people to get away from those abusive relationships. Yeah. And again, that goes back to the reason why I believe in the libertarian consent culture. More so than I believe in the my body, my choice aspect, the way the Democrats have decided to approach it, especially the way the Republicans have decided to approach it. Uh, Dave, let's go ahead and, your 50 to 100 milligram edible THC, 10 years now. I think most of the edibles I'm familiar with here in Oregon run about 5 milligrams. So, I mean, you're definitely stepping it up. But the THC edibles, 100% PTSD diagnosis, you know, it's a good deal you got going on there, David. Real good deal, as far as being able to integrate your PTSD, at least the VA is working with you down there. We have a number of veterans here in Idaho in the Treasure Valley. Um, the psychoactive drugs are prescribed by the VA because Idaho does not have a medical marijuana program. The VA here cannot prescribe it as a treatment for them. So an awful lot of them are running across the border to pick up their edibles for self-medication purposes. Nick, yeah, the Stockholm syndrome, it's very real these days. Julia, implied consent is not consent ever, ever. And that's one of those things that we still continue to get wrong. I hate, no, I don't hate it. I absolutely love bringing up the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, because that's really what the story of Sodom and Gomorrah was. It was about consent. The community in Sodom didn't care about the consent of the angels. They just wanted to know the angels in a very biblical way. There's a reason Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. It was a violation of consent. It was a violation of the right to choice. Yeah, you guys got a lot of variety down there, a lot of choice. Uh, Marijuana-based psychologists, actually people working with marijuana as a form of interactive psychotherapy process. Solid stuff going on. A lot of things developing out of that with regards to post-traumatic stress injury treatment. They're moving on real good with that. Julia, yeah, I know it's THC is standard for edibles. Yeah, 10 milligrams. 5 and 10 milligrams seems to be the standard dosages for the THC in edibles in Oregon. Now, the ironic thing is one of the things that they got for edibles is the chocolate bar, your edible chocolate bar. Now, Oregon limits the number of things you can purchase from any given store on any given day. Okay, so if I want to go to Oregon and I want to buy something, I want to buy a smoke cartridge, I want to buy something like that, and I pick up the smoke cartridge and I'm looking at it, and I can only buy 5 of them in any given day at any given store. So if I actually want to do my if I want to stock up, I actually have to hit multiple dispensaries in Ontario. If that was something I do, which I don't. It's actually an interesting experience going to Ontario with a friend who does use and going through the process and having them explain the way it works in Ontario. Uh, how many you can buy at a time, what's being covered. Now, only on a day-to-day basis, Well, you have to have your ID card. You need to be able to show it when you walk in. Now, Oregon is a recreational state, so you don't have to show a medical card in order to pick it up. So they're not tracking your medical dosages. It's just, are you old enough to buy it? Here it is. And because you're already been registered for the day, we cannot sell it to you again today. So turn around and come back tomorrow after they purge the daily database or however it is they do it as far as their information security goes. Imagine they all got their own process for doing it, their own way of doing it. But yeah, the experience of watching a purchase go down in Oregon, drive 50 minutes, spend 5 minutes in weedology looking at the place like it's friggin' the Apple store. Yeah, right. Literally, it's like walking into the Apple store. You walk in, there's a set of lines down on the floor. You're stepping on it from one to the next as you're waiting for your opportunity to go up to the counter. They got 7 clerks in there, each one of them behind a register. You hand them your ID. 5 minutes later, you got a bag from your online order, and you're on their way out. Too easy, right? Assembly line works like the Apple store. Steve, you're right. You're still in Washington, so you look at the way things are run over in Washington. Now it's interesting. Idaho sells. Oh yeah, this isn't quite right. Idahoans buy $3 million a week in marijuana products from out-of-state dispensaries. Think about that, folks. $150 million a year in marijuana products. Let's go straight across the line. Treasure Valley, we have 200,000. No, we have about 900,000 people in the greater Boise metro area. That greater Boise metro area was responsible for 10% of Oregon's marijuana sales last year. Sounds good, Nick. You do you. Take care of yourself. Good night. Get some good sleep, man. Get some good sleep. So we go across the border. $3 million a year. He'll laugh, but it's the truth, man. You walk into weedology. It's like doing the process at the Apple store. Stand in line. As soon as the spot for the clerk opens up, you'll walk up and he'll do the help tech, and boom, next thing you know, you're walking out, problem solved. Good folks there, though. Good folks. They move with efficiency. Yeah, Jackie, let's go Idaho. Here we go. Now, one of the things that's interesting, and this was one of the things I was looking at while I was there waiting for my friend to finish completing their purchase, was I'm looking at the edibles. And there is this 1.6 ounce chocolate bar. Thing is, 2 of those, you buy 2 of those 1.6 ounce chocolate bars. You now have 3.2 ounces of THC product in your possession. Yeah, David, it's carb overload. But the thing is if you buy those 2 chocolate bars and you drive across the border into the state of Idaho, those 2 chocolate bars, even though they probably only got 10 grams of THC apiece, is now a felony in the state of Idaho and will earn you 15 years in the federal penitentiary. 15 years for 2 edible chocolate bars. Damn, dude. That's a long time to go without your THC. Um, long, long time. Right, Julia? Right? No, you don't want to drive through Idaho either. What was it? 2 years ago, we had that trucker with 6 tons of hemp. It was trash hemp. It wasn't even really usable hemp. It was just hemp that was being moved from one farm to another. It was seed, turn around and get planted. And they were taking it from Colorado into Oregon to plant a new field. You only need to eat one of them to come in under the 3 ounces. But yeah, eat that one chocolate bar before you get back in your car to drive back to Boise for an hour, hoping that edible doesn't hit you until you are parked and at home. Whew! Seriously. Yeah, no, don't do it. That is not what we call safe access. Okay. Buying in Oregon and driving home high is not safe access. As a kind Idaho representative, as the treasurer, do not. That's not safe access, man. That's not safe access. We are never, ever, ever going to advise you do that. Yeah, he did. He did get released. Took a lot of work to do that. Took a lot of work. Took a lot of people. You imagine? What are you in for? Chocolate bar. Uh, yeah. What are you in for? Chocolate. But yeah, right. Jackie, you're absolutely right. Kind Idaho, we do not advocate for getting high before driving back, but too many Idahoans do because they don't actually want to be in possession when they cross back over the border. They drive across, they use it. Then once they've used it, they drive back to the state of Idaho under the influence. Not a good picture. That is not safe access. That's not good policy. It is not okay. That's one of the other things. Taxation. Taxation is theft, right? I'm a libertarian. Taxation is theft. Our legislative session has been in for 4 days now. 4 days. 4 days. We already have our Republicans offering a tax cut as part of their legislation. Okay. This is particularly interesting. Yeah, I got more people wrecking coming back. Legislation in the state of Idaho. The first bill to actually go before committee is a bill. It is about taxation, or actually reduce taxation, because what they want to do is they want to go in and reduce the income tax in the state of Idaho for a certain amount. It will actually be going before the committee as an RS. I don't think they've actually asked it to be printed yet. So we don't know the details, exactly how much of the cut it's going to be, where it's going to be applied. Right now, everything over $5,000 in income in the state of Idaho is a flat tax. But if you do the breakdown of the way the taxes work here in the state of Idaho, income tax is a flat tax, except you still have all of those exemptions and the ways you can file off the back end. So at the end of the day, those people with a lot of exemptions that are business related or whatever that are authorized tax exemptions in the state of Idaho will still be able to come in with a lower tax bracket, lower tax burden as a percentage of their income than those who, don't get those tax breaks because they have to spend on things that there's no tax break for, right? Hey, thanks for stopping in, Mary. Appreciate it. You have a great day, Marianne. Marianne, not Mary, I understand. Marianne, thank you for coming by tonight. Really appreciate it. You have a great night. Um, so we talk about that. Now the thing is, when the state goes in and they do a evaluation against the income tax, we have three kinds of taxes in Idaho. We tax all three. We are talking about income tax. We got that in the state of Idaho. We have sales tax, and we have property tax. Sales, income, property. When you actually do look at the breakdown, the state revenue is pretty evenly divided between all three. Now, mind you, if you don't have an income, or if you have a minimal income, that 6.5% sales tax comes out of everything you spend because you have no disposable income at the end of the month. Okay. If you do not have an income, you cannot make your property taxes, and your property gets seized by the state, and you end up homeless. So at the end of the day, if you have no income, you're not paying taxes, and you will soon no longer be housed, nor will you be able to eat. It's just a thing. So, as a percentage of your income, depending on which income bracket you fall in, represents the amount of tax burden because you are either paying property taxes on the taxes you live in, whether that's indirectly through rental or more directly through the mortgage that you've paid off. You actually own your house outright, except that the state still wants its chunk of it. The highest tax burden in the state of Idaho happens to belong to the lowest quintile. I mean, it's like about 9% of the income of everybody who earns less than $25,000 or $30,000 in the state of Idaho. 9% of their income goes to paying taxes or revenue of some kind in the state. Then for the next one up, it's 8%, and the one above that for everybody who's making more than $200,000 a year, only 7% of their income is actually going into state revenue. Even though we say it's a flat tax, greater percentage of the income of the poor people in the state of Idaho actually goes towards revenue, even though the people at the top end are paying more of the taxes. You can take a look at that however you want. You want to go back as far as Adam Smith, the people who benefit most from the organizations of the government should pay more. If you're making $200,000, the government's done you good. Why are you paying less than somebody who's making less than $30,000? Now, right? Absolutely, Julie. It's about keeping the little guy down. Now, if you ask me, we got a 6.5% grocery tax in the state of Idaho. Got it? 6.5% grocery tax. This is a clawback at the end of every year. Yeah, then go ahead and give us a cut. They say if you file for it at the end of the year, you'll be able to claw back that 6.5% that you've been paying on groceries all year, up to so much. I don't know about you, but if the state's got a surplus right now, and we are in a state of emergency because of income issues, maybe the thing we need to do is get rid of that clawback so that people can actually buy that extra 7% of groceries with each paycheck so they can continue to feed their families. Anyway, that's my personal thought on that. Why go for the repeal or the reduction in the flat tax when you can just say, you know what, it's time we do away with the grocery tax? Because the grocery tax they can actually put into effect immediately. If they go with a reduction in the income tax, they literally got to wait for every employer in the state of Idaho to update their records and be able to start changing that at a specific time. So that would be another year down the road. Grocery tax, every one of the grocery stores in the state of Idaho is already set up to remove taxes for the purposes of food stamps, the EBT cards. Literally the day after the governor signs a repeal of the grocery tax, people will be able to see a 7% boost in their ability to buy food for their families. Just saying, folks. Just saying. You got an opportunity to put a word in with your Republican representative about high taxes in the state of Idaho. Talk to them about allowing you to buy 7% more food with each one of your paychecks. Okay. It's been a little bit more than an hour, folks. Love you. Thank you for stopping by. Remember, KRTD Media Group. I will be talking live every Wednesday night. Go to their page, look that up. January 27th, I will be participating in No Caucus for Old Men with Reed Coverdale, the naturalist capitalist, and O'Donnell of New Hampshire. Okay. Love you guys. Remember, family, friends, community. As long as you got those three, you can make anything happen. See you on the flip side, actionists.